Alrighty, and now the microphones are on, and it looks like we're all online. So, hello out there, internet. It's another Tuesday night. Scuba and Arai. Scuba here, and of course, Rai is over there. How's it going tonight?
Set sail in 5 foot 3 feet water ish somewhere. At least I'm not drowning, so that's a good thing.
Yes, yes. Couple of quick housekeeping things right off the bat. That is, we're gonna pay some tribute and some thanks to recent followers of the channel, which gotta say thank you and appreciate that. So
thank you.
Deacon Blues Hamilton, thank you for following. Gary Diamonds, thank you, sir. And Texas, or TZX, also followed us over the last couple of days. These are all guys I had done a one-shot with on Sunday night that we did not finish, and we will continue again next week, this Sunday, which I'll go into that more when we get into State of Game. Got some more sample merch in. The t-shirts for Skittles and Top Shelf, or Top Shelf got a sweatshirt, Skittles got a t-shirt, and they both look good. Got photos posted up on the studio Instagram and the studio Twitter. That's what I got so far for quick announcements just to get out the gate.
Driving away.
You got anything, Ryan?
No announcements other than, happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Go ahead and get into our What's Happening, the segment where we talk about what we've been up to for the last week. Soon to be post-lockdown or ease or parole. I mean, what do you want to call
it? A stepping back toward the light, I would put it.
Going outside for the first time in 2 months kind of deal, right?
Yes. It's like the sun still exists. There is light. There is grass. There is air.
There's something, that's for bloody sure. Alrighty. Well, Ryan, lead us off, man. What you been up to? You seem to have been pretty busy.
Oh, yeah. It's actually, even whenever, this is always the case, even when I take a few days off where I feel like I can relax, I still relax, but I still am busy with a lot of things.
Okay.
So, Friday, caught up on the movie we'll talk about today. Saturday was my cousin Amanda's graduation. She graduated from Regent with her law degree. So congratulations to her.
Awesome.
But I also, part of that was I did a photo shoot for her. So we took photos, and I just finished and posted some of them on my Flickr page today.
Yeah, so, I saw the Facebook post. They look pretty cool.
Oh yeah, so definitely want to check out. I do photography on the side. If you ever want to reach out to me, I have actually, I can pull it up.
Oh, you can?
Oh yeah, right here. Right here is my trusty photography camera, my Nikon D3200.
Awesome. Okay.
So this is what I use. Has an interchangeable lens. I have another lens that goes with it, but hopefully one day I'll get some more lenses. But it's a hobby. Yeah, cameras do cost a lot. Lens costs a lot more. So, but the thing is, I've doing photography for a while. Both did it side job for a little bit, and now it's just back to a hobby. It's just I've learned how to use lighting, how to use environment, how to use everything at my disposal, because I like taking photos in nature. I like taking candid shots. I don't have a studio, but I can make anything work. But outside of that Sunday went in back to the First Landing with my friend Asia. We are prepping for a 5K later on this month.
Nice.
My legs are tired. Plus that, and plus working out today, my legs are tired, stiff, and ready for Epsom salt.
Anything else for what you've been up to?
Other than those things, nope. Just relaxing, hoping for the warm weather to kick in, and then as things slowly open up, still got to be precautious out there, regardless of what opens up or not. Follow the rules, people. As long as stay sanitized and keep your distance, I think we'll be fine. That's the one thing I'm looking forward to, hopefully, is being able to travel. So.
Well, traveling would be nice, that's for sure. Let's see. What I've been up to is last week built brand new computer setup, monitor setup, and then also set up lighting and all these things. I saw a couple of cool suggestions. My favorite one being taking monitor arms, I could use it to mount cameras, lights, and the microphone. So aside from the camera, that's what I did. I got 2 Voltec LED lights. Got a couple of extensions for tripod mounts. I got a kit of tripod bolts and was able to mount the 2 lights to the arms. I took a link out of one arm, so one's short, one's longer than the other, and then there are a couple of different heights to try and give me a little bit better lighting balance. I got a new arm for my snowball microphone that puts it. It's about 3 inches longer than the last one overall, but allows me to get it up and get it kind of out of the way where it doesn't look like it's in my face as I'm talking. I have a sit stand desk from FlexSpot. I bought the frame and then made the top out of an old door that I had in the shop for a project just like this. Also made a new crafting table that I'll be using to start getting into miniature and tabletop crafting work on again. Working out some new camera angles and whatnot, use it for my phone to use as a recording, because a GoPro is nice, but a GoPro is fixed at like that wide angle shot. So I really can't use it for close-up work. I realized that at the beginning of the year when I did a test building a miniature. The footage looks fine, it's you really can't see a lot of fine detail because the camera just does not zoom that close. So I figured I'd use my phone to try and get some better shots as I work through some other things. This week we got a couple of things we're going to talk about.
Oh yes, a movie and a TV series. I finished up another series on Netflix.
All right. Well, if you guys haven't checked it out yet, go to rye.reviews, all one word.com, and check it out. The latest review is The Lighthouse. William Dafoe. And for some reason, his name's escaping me right now. How can I do that?
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. Edward from
the Twilight movies.
Twilight franchise, yes.
Yes. But, this is the kind of movie that he is trying to do, try to get dabble into more acting, try to get away from that Twilight stigma, as you would like to say.
And he's been doing a lot of things. So this one is this one's kind of wild. I did actually watch a good chunk of it while we were building the computer and co-streaming that. Granted, I watched it with subtitles, so I'm going to be upfront on that. I haven't heard the dialogue, but I've heard William Dafoe in so many different movies. You kind of have his voice stuck in my head anyway.
Oh yeah.
So, Ryan, take it away. Tell us about the Lighthouse.
All right. So the Lighthouse is an indie, basically what you would call an indie / art house film. This is the kind of film that really true fans of the arts of what film is and what generally visual storytelling is with films that you see on like the big film festival circuits, Sundance, Cannes, Toronto Film Festival. These are the ones that get a lot of the buzz because of one or two things: the visual brevity of the film, and also the acting that is prime and pristine in these films. So at center stage of the Lighthouse, you have Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, both play 2 lighthouse keepers that have to work together on this remote island lighthouse in New England. And while working alone, they also have to battle not only the elements, their daily tasks, but also try to fight off falling into insanity. So there's a lot of mixtures of mundane tasks going on, but also a lot of underlying surface with visual imagery, certain mythos being predicated from certain scenes and scenarios, and just watching as they battle the wits of what's reality and what is fictional to what they see going on this island. So what this film boils down to is basically the 2 characters, and for all of the mundane tasks they do, what makes this film such a treat to watch is their personalities clash with each other, because you have this veteran of the island, the Willem Dafoe character, Thomas Wake, who's been doing this for a long, long time. So he has all these stories and these sayings and all these things he makes Robert Pattinson's character, Thomas Howard, do. So it's basically like father-son master slave, manager, employee kind of dynamic. So you see all of those play together that create this conflict, but it also drives them um, apart because of things that Rotten Pattinson's character sees. He starts noticing things. Thomas Wake, Willem Dafoe's character, kind of disappear at the top of the lighthouse always. He has it locked up. He says certain things with like very ominous views, but never clearly explains anything. He goes on tangents that don't make any sense, but eventually starts to make sense because of Robert Pattinson's character Thomas Howard, because he starts seeing things, and it starts with a seagull, and then from the seagull he starts seeing mermaids and sea creatures and things that just seem out of norm. But it also starts to break down his psyche as it continues on. So as the mystery of the lighthouse starts to slowly reveal itself, you watch these characters start to fall, start to battle against isolation, angst, sexual indulgence, and other fragile human behavior that happens when you're just left alone for 4 to 6 months with nothing else to do but just, make sure this lighthouse doesn't fall apart. So, and that's where you'll hit the crossroads of this film. It's either you're going to be able to understand what the mythos of all the imagery is, or you're just going to literally hate what you're seeing because nothing is explained. Nothing is ever explained in this movie.
Not in the traditional sense. No.
Not in the traditional sense. It's all imagery, it's all vision, it's all characterization of the human psyche falling into a deluge of madness, pretty much. And if you've ever seen the director's original work, his first film, The Witch, which you, me, and another friend saw, you can understand his directing mentality in this film.
That's probably why it felt kind of familiar.
Yeah. So, did you want to add anything to?
Yeah. The vision, the slow and steady descent into madness.
Yeah.
For Thomas was interesting because you could tell at the outset it was like, okay, he's the new guy, and typically the new guy is made to do everything.
Oh yeah, and he is made to do everything on this.
And it's like he starts to just shatter, and then it's like that. It felt very reminiscent of some other films, not just Witch, but some other things where it really kind of delves into that psyche and how your psyche, through certain situations, starts to fall apart, and watching him descend into madness, watching some of the scenes are just like he's lost it, and you almost, for me, there was times I saw a couple of things after he had totally lost it. You just kind of had to laugh because he's so far gone.
Is it after the seagull incident?
There's the seagull in the beginning where he just kind of looks at it, then all of a sudden and then he just starts lobbing it around like a sack of potatoes. But I'm thinking more toward the latter part, where it's like he picks up the thing of gasoline or kerosene and holds it kind of like a moonshine bottle, takes a swig, and then just carries on. And he just had to be like, okay, he's definitely lost his touch on reality. And
at that point, it's a crossroads, because that's where the film dives into what a lot of people that love art house films will enjoy, because it's not literal. The ending, the second half is not literally explained, but there are consequences to the choices that he is making.
Oh yeah,
and it's done through visual storytelling that is left up with an ambiguous, open interpretation. So it's that's going to either make or break how you enjoy this journey. But the one thing that I appreciate about this film is that as much as the craziness starts to happen, the allure of what and why keeps you watching, because you just kind of want to know what is it he's going to find out at the top of this lighthouse.
Yes.
So
and then you see it, and then it cuts away, and you see the last scene, which we're not going to spoil. Go check it out. This is on Amazon Prime. You know what? We may do Amazon. The watch parties are now available on Twitch. maybe we could do a watch party for this and just kind of roll through it
Do a
again.
commentary. Yeah.
And just kind of, yeah, I mean, that could be something we can do. But I thought, even watching it in with subtitles, and given the fact that the whole film is shot in black and white,
Yeah.
it doesn't have the modern color palette, it doesn't have the modern special effects. It's very noir. It's very much if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss things, and it's like, I think it's a credit to the cast on having to go through this without having the training wheels of explaining every little detail.
And that's one thing I did appreciate about this film is the strength of the acting and the strength of that camaraderie between Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, because it's a fragile, fragmented kind of relationship. Because at times they feel like they love each other, and then there's other times where they literally want to beat each other senseless. And it's a testament to the acting, especially Willem Dafoe got a lot of praise and a lot of award buzz for his role, but I think the standout is Robert Pattinson, because if you watch this film only seeing the Twilight films, you will be completely in awe of his just ability to get lost in the role.
Oh
You
yeah.
do not realize it's Robert Pattinson until you look at the credits and be like, "Wait, that's Twilight Boy?"
Oh, even so,
Yeah,
I mean, even look here. We have a picture of the we have the picture that you have up for your review, and I mean, he's very grungy. He's very
yeah,
much not the sparkling thing that has earned him so much ridicule
yeah.
for
And this is
doing
the
that
yeah,
role. And
this is
it's
the
like,
Yeah, and this is the kind of role that you realize, and plus another film that he did, Good Times, which I'll probably watch and review at some point. Why he probably got the role for the Batman.
oh
This
yes,
is when you see this film, no matter if you like, love, or hate it at the end, you see why he got that role. You see his acting ability, and another appreciation, like you said, the black and white. What I appreciate, the film's aesthetic didn't overshadow what was happening in the film. It was a part of the film. And if they used colors, it might have detracted from it. And it's just a testament to the director because he knows how to use themes, atmosphere, and detail of imagery from The Witch to here. You know that he's really good at using that kind of storytelling.
yes. What are we gonna
What about
call
for
this
you?
one?
All right. So overall, this is a very a very visually alluring film, but at the same time, it is one of those films that is hard for me to recommend for everybody to watch because this is a true art house film. This is only going to be appreciated by people like you or me, or people that can read between the lines per se. If you want to say, you can say. But
Well, given
overall,
also the current thing right now with isolation
yeah,
and then the fact the social distancing and
yeah.
the physical distancing. I mean, you can't get much more distant than an island
Yeah.
out in the middle of the bay.
But overall, I think it's a great film, but only a great film for indie fans. So if I were to give it a score, 3 out of 5, theater discount, it definitely worth seeing, but only for that niche crowd.
Okay. Or if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber.
Check it out.
Alrighty, well, I can't disagree with that review. So
No,
we'll just kind
yeah,
of roll on to that TV series, and that
all
is
right.
All American. This is a show on Netflix, I believe, correct?
Yes, it is a show on Netflix, but it's actually a show from the CW.
Oh,
So it's one of
really?
those that got shared in a deal. But the first 2 seasons are up on Netflix, and what this follows is a high school player by the name of Spencer James, as he gets recruited to play. He grows up in South Crenshaw, the southern part of LA, where the Bloods and Crips and all the gang stuff are happening. But he gets recruited to play at Beverly High in Beverly Hills. So that is the basis of the overall arching TV series story. But what this show delves deeper into is the clashing of the social indifference between Beverly Hills and South Crenshaw. There's racial disparities. There's the different, the typical teenage high school dramas, but there's a lot of subplots that deal with individuals just trying to face everyday life in different situations. So I would think, like I explained this to somebody. I said if you've ever watched the show Friday Night Lights, think of that show, but taking place in LA. So what it is, it's like 20% football, but mostly it's the drama and the characterization of the livelihoods of all these characters that revolve around Spencer James. And it's a based off a based off a true story, based off an actual NFL player by the name of Spencer Hasinger, who played in the NFL for a few years. So
Okay,
they based the storyline on his growing up in South Crenshaw, but having, being able to play at Beverly High.
interesting.
Yeah.
So you've completed the whole all of the stuff that's up on Netflix right now.
Oh yeah. And what I can say about this is that it is a truly gripping but very emotional ride because it deals with hard issues with the social disparity between the rich and poor, the racial disparity, and all the different situations that some people won't come across. But the way they do it is because since he is playing football in Beverly Hills, but he's growing up in South Crenshaw, you see that interconnecting of cultures from both areas. So it's like an eye opener for some people, but at the same time, there's a heartiness to it because they don't beat you over the head with themes. They just let it organically happen. It organically just lives and breathes. And season two actually, it will beat that emotional drum and make you tear up at certain scenes because what it deals with depression, deals with suicide, deals with terminal illness, and deals with fighting back through an injury to try to get back to the top. So there are very hard themes, but it all surrounds this high school all-star. So it's really good, and it layers between the football life and also there's the drama of growing up in all these different situations that affect people every day.
All right. So what are some of the what are some of the high points for the storylines?
The high points for the storylines is that it actually allows the characters to evolve organically. Nothing is force fed. There's no there are your typical archetypes, but it's just enough to introduce the characters. But then they start to reveal their backstories, start to reveal their flaws as human beings. Because you have these kids that grew up in this Beverly Hills bubble, but then what you realize is that there's a fracture within their lives, and then once they start leaving that bubble, they start to realize that there are real people out there, and then just having them interact with other people, it starts to devolve their character from that perfect persona into actually having to face facts of their own flaws. So
Okay.
the
So
trueness, the highlight is the characterization of every character. Every character has a point. Every
okay.
character has a point, and that's the one thing that is fails in a lot of TV primetime TV sitcoms is that they just rely on that melodrama trope to pull you in, but don't allow the characters to breathe that drama.
Or at least the modern sitcoms.
So watching this, and this is a modern primetime drama, and I was surprised at how head on they go with tackling certain issues. Yeah,
Well, it's the
especially
CW.
through
They
its
have they have a pungent for really kind of going out there with their storylines.
oh yeah. So it is on CW, like you said. It hasn't finished the series, but the first two seasons are on Netflix. But overall, it is probably one of the dark horses that I came across on Netflix that I've seen in the last few weeks.
All
Like I
right.
was surprised on how great the show is.
So thumbs up, thumbs down. How many stars?
I would give it if I would do it on the Rive review scale. Of right now, since the series is not done, a 4 out of 5 because there's no ending. They do have a season 3 coming out in the fall on the CW. Check it out, people. And definitely, I am hoping for the best because the way that it ended season 2, there's still a lot more stuff. They're not milking it for what it's worth. There's still a lot more because
Okay.
he's heading into his senior year, and he really has to achieve a certain goal to get the scholarship that the colleges are putting out there for him. So
Alrighty. Well, I guess we'll have to definitely check that out.
So anybody that's fan of Friday Night Lights, definitely put this on your queue.
Okay, state of game, the point where we talk about all the various games we play on the various platforms we play them on. And yeah, got a few things to talk about as far as campaign updates for as far as the various Dungeons and Dragons games I'm affiliated or involved in. But as always, we're going to start with Rye and the video games that he's been going. I'm very curious to see how he's getting in Final Fantasy VII and if he's actually started playing Days Gone.
Not to burst your bubble, but I haven't. So
I know that this is what they call a rhetorical question, as I put out there for anybody who's been following the show, because I think for the last couple of months we've been talking about how you got Days Gone in virtual shrink wrap, you had Days Gone installed, you had Days Gone ready to play, and then Final Fantasy VII remake comes out, and it's like, Days Gone, what's that?
Yeah, what is that? Hey, what's that new shiny thing over there? Okay, but like you said, literally the only game, well, outside of running through Division 2 with you from, here and there, the only game I'm playing, I'm starting to get knee deep into is Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I've starting to get into the latter chapters, and they are definitely, allowing, getting harder. That's all I'm going to say. It's getting harder. The enemy types are definitely getting diverse, and you're definitely there is a hard balance between offense and defense, and the way that they built the mechanics of the gameplay is starting to shine even harder. I know before I said how I love the way they have the real-time fighting in this, because it's a mixture of what they did in Final Fantasy 15, but it's more action-oriented. But it is definitely hitting its stride right now with these last few chapters I've been playing through, which is chapters 11 through 13. Those are the ones I'm getting into. I'm in chapter 13 right now.
Okay.
So it's the storyline it's opening up. It's starting to hit that emotional chord for anybody that's played Final Fantasy VII, both past and present. But just having to balance your using your elixirs and mana, knowing the enemy types and knowing which skills work better at what, especially the fact of the playing through it yesterday, having to fight flying types and ground types and tank types all at the same time, and figuring out how to use Cloud and Tifa and Barrett, without losing them at all, because they all have different skill sets that balance each other out. So the last hard fight that I had to tackle yesterday was against Turek and Reno. So that was very, very hard. And I know it's not going to be the hardest, because there's 18 chapters and I'm on chapter 13. So I know there's still hard things to come.
Oh yeah, so, there's still a lot of fun things too.
Yeah, so I'm expecting a lot more. If anybody knows me and my gaming habits, when I start to get knee deep in a game like this, it's pretty much going to be my 100% focus until I get to the end. So overall, it's starting to hit its stride with the fighting mechanics. But I am hopefully going to sneak in another game. Days Gone, maybe. But I did download Street of Rage 4 on Xbox. So it's on the Game Pass if you want to check it out, Scuba. It's something we can play.
We'll take a look. I know that there's also Red Dead Redemption 2 is on Game Pass right now.
I do have that on disc. I never finished the story, but I might go back to that at some point in the near 100 million year future. But other than that, since I had to take my car into the shop yesterday, maintenance. Whenever I go there, I bring my Switch and I play Torchlight 2, and I just love that game. That game is just that is just like, if I just want to just be happy, I play that game.
Because you can never go wrong watching Torchlight.
Torchlight 2 is loot heaven. You can just do whatever the heck you want and have fun.
Time last week and this last weekend was Dungeons & Dragons games. Had the No Quarter game Friday. They managed to get through a place called Novigrad. They really get through that. There was a couple of things that was kind of like, really, it's like we have a dwarf character who's just literally I don't care kind of person. He sat there and was like, they get to the room where the kings, where the two kings are that you have to rescue. One of them is just in a complete state of panic because there's some shape-shifting creature that's been attacking the residents of Novigrad. And the dwarf at one point is like, look, can you give me that jug of stuff so I can release, because the other king is glued to a chair. And it's like, can I just have this? And he fails the persuasion. And then he's like, fine. I intimidate him. I say, give me that or I'll give you a shapeshifter. And he wins that. But the other king kind of looks at him like he just done lost his mind, threatening a king. But the dwarf really just doesn't care. He's just like, royalty, smallty, I don't care. But they were managed to get through that. Now they're going to spend the night. Now they're going to move on to the next thing. And we're going to play again this Friday. Because with having the stuff on Roll20 like I do now, it's a lot faster as far as moving through things. And they're not real big into a lot of story type elements. It's A to B. Now, that could be that they're having fun, which that's all I'm concerned with. If they're having fun, I'm having fun. We're good to go. We can carry on with our lives. Saturday was the premiere first episode of Challenge Accepted, which that actually went fairly well. I've heard a couple people tell me it went really well. Personally, as a self-critic, after thinking about it, I felt I did an absolutely horrible job because I did a lot of I don't know. Give me a second. It's like, so.
We are our own worst critic. I understand that.
This is true. This is very true. But considering we had never really met before, we talked briefly the week before, and we sat down to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons as all strangers. And after a little bit, the group started to gel. They spent the week in the town of Saltmarsh, working as mercenaries. They didn't really explore the town much. They did the basic provisions, information collecting, and then made their way to the haunted house. Now, this week when we get in our session, 3 p.m. Eastern time here on the Twitch channel, they're going to start their journey in and through the house, and I'm taking my mental notes from last Saturday and applying them to my prep for this Saturday so that we can see how that goes and see if that becomes a crawl or a slaughter or worse. I don't know. Sunday night was a game where I actually jumped in as a player. For someone else who was DMing. It was his birthday is today. Happy birthday, Prometheus! And happy birthday. He wanted to do this one shot. So I was like, all right, we're in there. So he asked us to make characters. I made a Goliath Druid, 3rd level, kind of leaning on the healing side more than anything else. I made this character and sent it to him. He said, don't really worry about background or anything like that. That'll all be part of the one shot. It's like, okay. I leave it in the DM's hands, and the DM giveth, and the DM taketh. I was not disappointed. The name of this adventure is called The Pigeons of Zadash.
Pigeons? Flying somewhere?
No.
Oh.
But let me tell you what happens. So we start this adventure in the town of Zadash. A wonderful little town in the continent of Wildmount, courtesy of that we hear about in the Critical Role and the Realmsmith Tides of Wildmount games. We're a group of pigeons. We've been hanging out together for many years. And all of a sudden, this individual comes to us and says, I need your help. Waves a magic wand and turns us into a group of adventurers. But we were actually all pigeons.
Okay.
And then he, through some whimsical world happenings, he turned himself into a spoon. So we're trying to figure. thinking. I mean, we're trying. It's like we were pigeons, and now we're humanoids, and we're going to try and get the spoon to this bridge to possibly help the spoon out and maybe help ourselves out. But it's a very much a kind of a reverse spies in disguise.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, it's like straight up. That's exactly what I was thinking too. I wonder if that was intentional or not, but it was straight up spies in disguise in reverse.
Oh yeah.
Shenanigans ensue, and the idea was this would be a encapsulated start to finish adventure. It did not get that way. We actually, at about midnight, this Eastern time, said, all right, how are you guys doing? I still have potentially a couple more encounters that we would hit. Do you guys want to just take a break and pick this up next week? Everybody was like, yep, we're good with that. So the Pigeons of Zadash will continue this Sunday. And I'm very curious to see how this ends.
I'm curious to hear about this. I
think that's it for all the games and stuff. So I think we can move into our news and odds and ends.
Do.
Right?
Skadoosh.
Odds and ends. Here's the various news stories and whatnot that we find, or actually no, more often than not, Rye finds these things, sends them to me, and then I have to go, okay. So I broke this up. We've got 5 newsy type things, and we have 5 really kind of random things. So
Some really good random things, funny things. And
they are, and it's random because it's like, this is great anecdote material. If you want talking with people, it's really great anecdotal material.
It plays off our own
first thing,
conversations.
So again?
Yeah. So it plays off our own conversations because we go off in a lot of tangents.
That's the dynamic thing of conversation. Things just kind of go. All right, first thing in the list is, no surprise, Tokyo Game Show for this year has been canceled. Womp, womp, womp.
Sadness all over.
But
it wasn't expected. With everything else getting canceled or moved, it was just a matter of time before, the target hit the red dot on the dartboard. So
yeah, and to be honest, this is the year. I think in a lot of ways, this year is kind of a wash, especially this season for all the cons and conventions.
Yeah,
a few of them are nice. If some of the stuff in the winter keeps coming, like was it New York Comic Con is in the fall?
Yeah, it's a September, October time frame.
But I have a feeling now it's going to be canceled anyway, just because the way New York is.
Yeah, it depends. Or if they could always move it to the Jersey side or something. But those planning event event planners will figure it out.
I'm sure. But yeah. So
back to Tokyo.
Well, maybe next year will be more interesting. Who knows? Or they may do a virtual one. There's a lot of these cons I went to purely virtual conventions. I don't know if it's a big thing over there in the Japanese culture, but
yeah. But based on the article as reported on IGN, the event was scheduled to be in Tokyo between September 24th through the 27th at the Marker Mezi, which is in Japan. But they will reshape it into an online event, and more information to follow later.
Sweet. So they are going online. Definitely have to go check that out.
So, quote, due to the outbreak of the novel coronavirus on a global scale, and the situation remains unpredictable in Japan as well, the organizers and co-organizers have reached this decision after a long consideration and placed the utmost priority on the health and safety of visitors, exhibitors, and stakeholders, end quote. So even though it's being canceled, it is doing one of the things we mentioned last week about an anime convention, and they're going online.
Okay.
So it might not be as expansive and colorful as what we're used to seeing from the Tokyo Game Show, but at least they're giving, fans some treat of the gaming world. So.
Alrighty. Okay, so our next one, this is a sign of good things. Bear with us on that. Let's see. The Avatar sequels apparently are costing $1 billion to produce. That's roughly $250 million for each of the 4 sequels that they're shooting. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is it looks like from preliminary reports that filming has started to resume in New Zealand for not just the Avatar films, but also for the Lord of the Rings series that Amazon called for.
Oh yeah.
This is good thing. This is light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it?
Oh yeah. So outside of the fact that we are finally going to see these sequels see the light of day, which James Cameron has been saying was supposed to be coming out like 5 or 6 years ago, but getting pushed and getting pushed and getting pushed. But the fact that they're going to start getting on track and actually hit their opening date of December 17th, 2021, it's a sign of things to come. Along with the fact this will be paralleling the production of the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon because both of them are being filmed in New Zealand. So,
which is a great place to film films.
oh yeah.
All right, now this one's going to be a follow-up. This next one's a follow-up to what we were talking about yesterday, or not yesterday, but last week. And that is, last week we kind of touched on the whole thing, the whole dust-up between AMC and Universal over the Universals looking at the business side of things in terms of releasing films on premiere video on demand versus the traditional theater release, given the current world state of affairs with theaters and the dust up that happened to go on with that. Well, we also talked about the fact that AMC Theaters is filing for bankruptcy because they had to furlough virtually everybody because of what was going on, and they're not too sure they're going to be reopening their theaters before July, or if they are, it's the limitations. I think this particular article talks about how the AMC Theaters is going to wait until they actually have releases to put in the theaters to put out, which right now that's looking like July is when the studios are going to be releasing films for theater to put out. But why am I saying all that? Why am I bringing you up to speed? It's because this article that came out talked about how Amazon is apparently or rumored to be considering buying AMC. That's huge. Whether it's true or not, it is huge just to even contemplate the idea that Amazon is buying, it might buy AMC, which is arguably the largest chain of movie theaters globally. Rye, what do you think about this?
Just to add credence to what you said, they are the largest movie chain in the world because they own 11,000 screens around the globe. But it is a game changer in the fact, regardless if it's rumor, but all rumors come from some source of truth. So just the fact of hearing that, we already knew that AMC was in dire straits because they were always losing money anyway. So through the last few years, they have been ramping their theaters to bring in more of an aesthetic pleasing to the movie experience, to the stadium style seating, to the Dolby cinemas, to bringing in like dinner styles, and then you have a bar and all the different kind of amenities that can bring people in other than just watching the movies. With this COVID pandemic, it has hit that chain hard because nobody can go to the theaters because there is a aspect of social interaction with it, of course. So a lot of people are predicting that they're going to have to file for bankruptcy, but then this report comes out that Amazon might be looking to pump in some money into saving them by acquiring them. The reason it is big is because Amazon, like we've mentioned with the movie we reviewed earlier this podcast, they have their own movie line studio. They have their own streaming service, and plus the distribution network they have, and just shipping and delivering. They are a conglomerate, a big company out there. So having them acquire the largest movie chain in the globe just gives them a big outlet to pump in an interchangeable with their movies, with their streaming. Find other outlets, not just put it streaming, but they also have a way to put it out in theaters without going through a middleman.
I think it's a great contract negotiation too. If you're looking at streaming films, not just feature films and releasing in the theater, as well as releasing it on demand and Prime, but also their films that would not have gone to theater, they could put into theater.
Yeah. So, oh no, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So if you're familiar with AMC, they have this thing where they have um I forget what it's called, but it's event style showings. Well, they'll have a weekend or a few days where they'll show like musical events. They might show
Fandango events.
yeah, they might show certain like foreign films. One of the things they do a lot is they have this event where once the Oscar nominees get the best picture nods get out there, AMC does a thing where they rotate the best pictures up until the award show. And also they have a series called the Artisan series where they highlight certain smaller films that wouldn't see the light of day because of not being big films. So the fact that Amazon, they already pump in a lot of money into all these smaller films and all these other artists that won't see the light of day with the movie theaters, not movie theaters but the studios. It gives the independent artists another outlet to expand their reach, but also creates the avenue where Amazon, like they made that deal with South by Southwest to push out the movies on their streams. If they had a hold of theaters, it would expand the reach of that said festival. So the festival could go outsourced to be like not just in one area, but you can have people view it from this theater, this theater, this theater on certain days of that week. So there's a lot of credence to not just the fact that they would be owning the largest movie theater chain, the fact that it creates more avenues for festivals, for moviegoers to see more expansive material, but also the independent artists out there will have a better way of reaching the masses, not just through VOD, but theaters across the world.
It's definitely gonna be a developing story. We're gonna be keeping our eyes and ears on.
Yes.
Moving on. Let's see. There's a talk of a new series ordered by CBS. It's supposed to be a sequel to the Silence of the Lambs called Clarice, which is reportedly following Clarice's time in the DC field office. It's going to be a procedural. She's going to be tracking down serial killers and murderers, as well as navigating the political to and from of being in DC. I think I've seen this in 100 other different ways, but the interesting thing for this, and the reason why this has been having such an issue, is because of a rights issue with the characters in these stories this guy wrote. Apparently, Hannibal had a similar problem, but they could not use Clarice Starling in the Hannibal series. But because of that, and very similar, it looks like we're not going to be able to see Hannibal or any of the characters associated with Hannibal from Red Dragon, Hannibal Rising, and Hannibal in this show because of an issue with the rights to using those characters.
Yeah.
So I find that's fairly interesting, considering the guy wrote the same books. Why are we having such an issue with characters that were in one book and not in others, or a character that was, if they weren't introduced in Silence of the Lambs, they're not going to be in this TV series. And conversely, Hannibal had the issue where they could not use any of the characters introduced in Silence of the Lambs in their show. Thoughts?
I think that contract dispute is probably just something that we probably won't see the light of day. It's probably stuff happening behind the scenes where the original creator will want certain things, but either the studios or certain distributors won't give it to them. So there might be some infighting that's creating this elusive dynamic, because it's no difference between the Tolkien estates and Warner Brothers when it came to creating the Lord of the Rings films or the delay in the Hobbit. And outside of not just the movies, the series, the games, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's probably why there's that dynamic where you can use one character for one thing and not use this stuff, and vice versa. But it also, I think it's a plus, because not only do they don't have a reliance on previous material, being a sequel and focusing on focus on the character of Clarice and her future endeavors on what she investigates. It allows more creativity for the serials to deep dive into that cop serial drama, the cop procedural drama, but add it with a twist. With knowing that she's going to be going after serial killers, and the fact that she's already worked with one because of previous material, but they
Yeah,
don't
but
have to tie it back.
it's really. I got to be honest. It really doesn't feel any different than Criminal Minds,
Oh yeah, it all
or
depends. Well,
or
Criminal Minds is a CBS show, so it might be the same. So
I mean, that's what this. It looks like we're gonna get another try the Criminal Minds type of show. I mean, that was a procedural that was trying to find serial killers and stuff. Without a Trace, same procedural looking for kidnap victims. Bones,
yeah,
was a procedural that had to deal with with scientists and the FBI. I mean, this does not feel like a very original idea, other than hey, what material can we tap in for characters and environment, and let's tap into Silence of the Lambs, which, to be honest, we haven't heard much conversation about since the original film, way back when, with Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins.
yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things where you're getting a mask up. You're getting a hollow around the idea. So you're getting just pieces of what you want, but it's going to be filled in with the obvious of what you expect of the genre. So it's going to either be entertaining at best, but it might just be very redundancy because it's just going to follow the same path as, like you said, Criminal Minds, NCIS, um, any criminal procedural out there.
That's
So
fair.
I think that the fact that it's going to be on CBS, it's going to follow a certain formula. So it's going to be tried and true and mundane. But there are people that like that stuff. So as long as you can slap, happiness on a coat of paint, they'll be happy. But I
All right.
would rather see a series like what happened on HBO, like The Outsiders. But not HBO can't get every property.
Alrighty. With that, we'll move on. Our last thing is a couple of quick 1-2 punches from the House of Mouse. Let's see. First one, which is a double whammy, is reportedly the actor who played Jango Fett has been asked to come join the cast of Mandalorian season 2 as none other than Boba Fett. So we'll finally have a in-canon reappearance of Boba Fett after he was supposedly killed in the Sarlacc pit.
Oh yeah, but for anybody that follows the Star Wars universe, there's comics and stuff that explain how he got out of that pit. But it is interesting to see how they're going to incorporate him in the Mandalorian. But there's been a lot of suspected and just fandom comments about there's got to be some ties to Boba Fett because you're focusing on bounty hunters and everything.
Well, John Favreau has sat there and said part of the reason why he wanted to do Mandalorian was because of the void left by the lack of Boba Fett. That being said, another notable Mandalorian has been cast, and that is Katie Sackhoff has been cast to play Bo-Katan in season 2 of Mandalorian. Now, if you're not familiar, Bo-Katan is a fairly prominent member of Mandalorian society, which we were introduced to in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and then reintroduced to in Star Wars Rebels. And then she came back for the finale in the Clone Wars, which was the whole siege of Mandalore, and she was a fairly predominant one. Her sister Satine happened to be a romantic interest of Obi-Wan Kenobi in their youth, and she was killed by Darth Maul. Which I think it's nice because this is definitely more of that blending of the various stories together. So we'll find out more of what happens. It'll also be interesting because with Rosario Dawson reportedly coming in as Ahsoka Tano, there was some definite interactions there that we could see.
Yeah, that interconnectivity does bring things closer and keeps things consistent. But it also gives a good way of probably more exploration since this takes place after Return of the Jedi. So it gets to build on what they have been doing and what they will be doing.
Yes. All right. Next thing is apparently the Hamilton play, which we've all heard about, has gotten so much buzz and praise and criticism, apparently was turned into a film by Disney. But however, it was slated for release in October. It is instead going to be released on July 3rd via Disney Plus.
As reported in IGN, the Hamilton movie with Disney paying a huge sum of money for the rights for Hamilton is going to push it out on their streaming service.
Well,
Which is,
and the thing is, Lin-Manuel has been doing a couple of various Disney projects already, so I'm sure this was all part of that, part and parcel to getting him on board anyway.
Oh yeah, but it also what this highlights is that it's another boon for Disney Plus, because what this is going to help is build up that not only they have their back catalog and stuff, but it gives that flush of original content. Not to mention another big film being put on the streaming service that's not going to hit the theaters, along with Artemis Fowl this month.
Well, next thing you know, Disney will be buying one of these troubled movie theaters.
And then we'll just be controlled by a mouse and a delivery service. Woohoo!
Giggity. Alrighty. Last thing, speaking of movie theaters, Disney apparently is confirming a July release of Mulan.
Yeah.
This is tentative, though, because Mulan is slated to come out a week after the next Christopher Nolan film, Tenet, which is being distributed by Warner Brothers. From reading this article, it looks like, from Screen Rant, it looks like if Warner Brothers decides to push back the release of Tenet, Disney is probably going to follow suit and push back Mulan, depending on how things start to reopen post lockdown or in this dry spell from COVID cases, the predominance of COVID cases being reported or diagnosed. Not sure with everything else with this pandemic. It's all very fluid. It's all very much, yeah, things looked good today, but they're not looking so good tomorrow. Or, hey, they're looking better tomorrow, or maybe in 2 weeks. I mean, just as we were talking pre-show, the governor was saying that the governor of Virginia was talking about how reopening the state and wanting to make sure each region is set to open, and spent quite a bit of time on Monday outlining as a Commonwealth, we're here, but this region, they're not so much.
Yeah.
So, with everything, we just gotta be patient. We gotta keep safe. We gotta keep everybody healthy as best we can. So, I would like to see Mulan hit theaters before the end of this calendar year, personally, just because I want to see what they did to revamp the story. It is not going to be a direct one-for-one from the anime, because apparently the anime did not go over so well in the East, and hopefully this time it will, because they're focusing a lot more on incorporating a lot more of Eastern culture and getting it right, so to speak. Comments?
Oh no, I was just waiting for you to finish up.
I was done. I figured I'd let you get a couple thoughts in, and then we can move on to the weird stuff.
Because they already, I can't wait to get some of that weird stuff. Mulan, it was slated to come out in March, and then because of the whole hoopla of COVID ruining people's lives, it moved the movies back. And along with this, it got pushed to a July release date, and that is all predicated, like you said, on the situation, on what Warner Brothers does, but also depending on will there be enough theaters open for the movie to be shown. But I'm looking forward to it because, like you said, this looks like this might be the one live action remake. There's been a few that I really enjoyed, but this will probably be one of the ones that is a true a remake from the ground up, because from the trailers, from the authenticity that they have been putting into the film, from the casting to the storyline, it definitely looks like it is a true revitalization of the story, and one that a lot of people are looking forward to, especially with the positive buzz that it got when it was supposed to be released in March, now slated for July.
Alrighty.
So hopefully this film, Tenet, and Wonder Woman, which is supposed to be August, hit the theaters, and we can get people back and excited to see things.
We shall see. Alrighty, now for the weird stuff. First thing, this is a bit of statistical information. Apparently, according to Screen Rant's reporting, the Nintendo Switch has already outsold the Nintendo 64 and Nintendo GameCube combined.
Oh yeah. So as you said, it's reported on Screen Rant. The Nintendo Switch, which has been a very helpful device for Nintendo, has been reportedly uh, outsold both those two prime devices um, combined. Nintendo sold in the first 3 months of 2020, as quoting from the Screen Rant, Nintendo sold 3.29 million Switches consoles, 33% increase over last year's sales in the same period. Total sales of the Switch now add up to 55.77 million. The N64 shipped 32.93 million, and the GameCube shipped 21.74 million, respectively. Combined total 54.67 million. There you go.
Alrighty. Okay, so
You caught up yet, Scuba?
Huh?
Are you one of those 55.7 million owners yet? No.
The Switch?
Yeah.
No, not yet. Hopefully,
So
maybe.
57? 58. Got to get one for everybody in the house.
Yeah, let's see. $500 a pop. That's going to be a little bit steep for me right now.
Oh, you can get the light version.
No. Nope. No.
Oh yeah. Well, if you are basing off a podcast we did previously, check it out, people. I went on my tangent about why you shouldn't buy it. So, good job.
No, that's definitely a much earlier episode. Alrighty. Let's see. Next thing is apparently Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be shorter and smaller in terms of scope as opposed to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, as a means to combat the bloat criticisms. I mean, I'm guessing there was too much in Odyssey, which is kind of weird to have too much in a video game.
Yeah. So as reported on IGN, this Ubisoft's Middle East head of communication Malik Tefla on Twitter said it won't be the longest or biggest game in the series. They addressed criticism on this one. So what happened when Assassin's Creed Odyssey came out to glowing praise, both by the fans and the critics alike? One of the things that was mentioned was just the vastness of things happening. So you might spend a whole lot of time navigating from one point to another. So when the certain story points hit, it didn't hit that dramatically. Plus the fact that there was a lot of not for me personally, but for some people in the community, a lot of filler and a lot of just unnecessary time between certain parts. So what their task with Valhalla, at least from what we've seen and what we heard, is that they're filling everything with necessary stuff and not just rabbit holes. But yeah, but it there was a lot of from me, because I played Odyssey from end to end. There was a lot of filler. Some of the filler didn't really seem necessary, but some of the filler was amazing. So in any open world game, you're going to have other things to do. So I rather, in my personal opinion, I would rather have what I had in Odyssey than what I would have in like a game like LA Noire, where it's so big, but it was only like 3 or 4 things you could do. Yeah.
I guess there's something to be said about scope and scale.
Yeah. So it looks like it's definitely going to be interesting to see the end of this year.
I can't wait to check it out. Alrighty, now here for our next one. This is really kind of out there. Apparently, the next Tom Cruise film is going to be shot on board the International Space Station and shot in space.
Oh yes. So as reported on Screen Rant, NASA has confirmed that the currently unnamed film with Tom Cruise, he's going to join forces with Elon Musk's SpaceX program as well as NASA, so they can film some scenes on the International Space Station. But given the state of Hollywood right now and the current pandemic, we're not sure when that will happen.
I mean, I gotta give it props. I mean, he's really kind of pushed things as far as action films. and this would be a huge thing. It just the legit. This is something I was really kind of hoping we would see years ago, before the whole space race thing turned into a space crawl or a space walk backwards.
A space what?
Walking backward, yeah. What? But this might be nice to finally get back into moving in that direction, even if it is just a film. But the ambition to actually go to space and film in space, I'm channeling the Portal 2. It's like I'm in space.
But it's just a testament to Tom Cruise and his just his going all the way for every film he does. He is one of the true um, um, film actors that we don't see nowadays. He goes to the full extent to make sure you get that entertainment value, no matter if it's hanging on the side of a plane in Mission Possible, or hanging off a building in Mission Possible Ghost Protocol, or literally having all the cast members learn how to fly planes in the upcoming Top Gun film. He pushes everybody to the limit to make sure you get that true experience.
Yes, so I appreciate for that. Alrighty, next up, a little bit of local news. The Norfolk Botanical Gardens is apparently going to be featured on a United States postage stamp, which will go on sale tomorrow, May 13th, as part of a series depicting the American Gardens. Aww.
This is what's a delight thing to see. As reported by our local affiliate Wavy. The gardens will be featured on that stamp, and it will just highlight the amazingness that is the botanical gardens, because it is a seasonal garden. So there is a lot of things that go in bloom depending on what time of year. So it's just going to highlight all the amazing botanical isms of the flowers, the colors, the roses, and the perennial things out there. I definitely got.
I think it's cool. It's a nice cool oddity type thing. I don't know how much detail you're going to see, because the stamp is all about that big.
Yeah, a little bit that big, but at least it'll create a focal point of not only highlighting flowers, but it also highlighted one of the great places to visit in this area.
This is true. Great place for Pokemon hunting.
Oh yes.
So I'm told. I haven't actually done any Pokemon hunting there, but I hear it's a good place for Pokemon hunting.
Yes. From personal experience, it is.
Alrighty. And our last story for the night, which is a follow-up to an odd story that we brought to you last week. Last week we talked about how the murder hornet, this big 2-inch size hornet that immigrated from Japan, somehow started getting sighted in the Washington state, and there's concern because hornets tend to hunt bees, and the bee population is already fragile. Bees' lives matter.
People.
We talked about how half a dozen of about 20 or 30 of these things that they sting you could kill you. Well, as with everything else, apparently it is also a gourmet delicacy in some circles.
Put some sauce on that and make it saucy.
Apparently they're a crunchy gourmet snack.
Oh yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew? But as reported on the New York Post, quote, in more rural parts of central Japan, giant hornets, which are infamously known to kill many people throughout the years, have long been consumed in a variety of forms and valued as a traditional source of cheap protein, end quote.
Well, I mean, there's some thing of that. Bugs are a great sense of protein, but figured just had to throw that in there. We talked about it last week. There's got to be a sunny side to this.
There's always a sunny side. Turn something in that is deadly and vicious into a $30 plate item at a upscale restaurant, I guess.
Looks like it.
Same thing with blowfish. Blowfish are deadly, but hey, you can only get it at high price restaurants.
And years of practice before you even attempt to cut one of those things off.
Oh, yes. So if I hear somebody's only done it for 2 years, call me back in 10.
Yeah. Once you hit that 15 to 20 year mark, then we'll be good.
And then I'll have somebody else test it out before me.
The sacrificial friend. I get it.
Yeah, gotta sacrifice. Sacrifices have to be made.
All right. Oh, it's all good. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and shift over to our contact info. And we'll start winding this down. This is where you can find all of our social medias and connections. As I said, there's a Discord, there's a Twitter, there's YouTube, all those fun things. This show does go out as a podcast through all your podcast downloading sources. This also goes up on the Scuba Studio YouTube channel, where you can check that out, as well as other videos that we have done, previous show episodes, our TV show reviews, our some gameplay stuff that I've done, and where you can start finding these D&D shows that I am able, that through the kindness of my players want to have recorded, or have asked me to record for them. So with that, anything you want to add into this, Ryan?
Definitely follow us at all the links. Follow Scuba at all the various social media websites. Follow me on Instagram at InkBitchTrav. Want to check me out? Just send us a like, but follow us everywhere. And let us know plus minus and suggestions for anything coming up next few shows.
Alrighty, and with that, we will wish you all a wonderful evening. Have a safe week. Stay safe. And we will see you on the next one.
Peace.